Come see me. Hi everyone, this is Sienna Perry here from APNIC and welcome to the NextGen BoF. This is always a highlight of an APNIC meeting and often hosted by the wonderful David Hooverman, who will be joining us again today. This BoF is a unique opportunity to hear from 3 up-and-coming internet leaders about their ICT journeys, focusing on the early stages of their careers. Find out how they make the right decisions for their career path, made the most of opportunities as they were presented, and created opportunities for themselves. I'm also really excited to hear about some of the massive mistakes that they've made, because as we've been talking about in the past few days, sometimes it's the mistakes that actually lead us to the opportunities. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you, your families, and your colleagues are safe and well at this strange time. I'll hand over in a minute to David, as I mentioned, who is the chair of the session, but I'm just going to run through some brief housekeeping first. Please be mindful of the code of conduct. I'm about to put it in the chat box. And it's also published on the APNIC 52 website. Comments and questions are thoroughly encouraged in this session. As I understand it, it's an informal, much more a discussion session as opposed to a presentation. So we'd really love to hear from you guys, your questions, your comments, those kind of things. You can either use the raise hand function in the Zoom and you can join the queue for voice, or you can use the Q&A button on Zoom for text and I'll read out your comment or question. As per regular meetings, please state your name and affiliation first. If you have any questions about the event itself, using Zoom or any other issues not related to the presentations, help is available on the APNIC 52 website, or you can use the Zoom chat. And as always, you are very much encouraged to share a selfie of you joining in from your office or your home using the hashtag APNIC52 and sharing on social media. There's some great daily prizes for you and we want to see your best and most creative selfies. And as per usual, please join the conference chat afterwards and between sessions to mingle with your peers, APNIC staff, speakers and sponsors. There's always a really robust conversation there, so I do encourage that. And with that, I would love to ask David to take over.
Recording in progress.
Thank you so much, Sienna. Hi, everybody. It's really nice to see you all today and welcome. I'm so happy you've joined us today for the NextGen Fellows BoF here at APNIC 52. I'm David Huberman from ICANN. And during this week's APNIC 52 conference, there's so much content where we can learn more about so many topics, whether it's tracking, measuring, and mitigating DDoS attacks, to topics on IPv4 and IPv6, to a really wild technology called oblivious DNS, to the DNSSEC key life cycles, to AS0 and software-defined network, and just a long list of really wonderful network engineering related topics, some of which you're an expert on already, and some of which you'll start down the path of being an expert here at APNIC 52. But here in the NextGen Fellows BoF, we're going to discuss something slightly different. We're going to talk about how to engineer your career, or really even how to begin your career, whether it's going to be in network engineering or network operations, management, transit, peering, data centers, data center management, people management in the ICT sector, and even for some of you, one day, executive management here in our community. For this discussion today, we are very honored to have 3 panelists with 3 very diverse backgrounds and journeys in our community. And it is my honor to introduce them to you now. Joining us today is Munkbot Surenchamed from AWS, Anju Mangal from the World Wide Web Foundation, and Praneet Kaur from TechTelic. Munkbot, Anju, and Praneet, thank you so much for joining us today. So there are going to be no slides. This isn't this type of session. We're going to talk, and we're going to talk about our careers and about our journeys. And when you have questions and when you have comments, please interrupt us. Please raise your hand. Please put a question in the Q&A pod. Sienna and the wonderful staff at APNIC will help us to guide this conversation, but we're all here to talk. I would like this afternoon to start with our friend Munkbot. Munkbot, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, David. Thanks for a great introduction.
It's so nice to see you. Thank you. Tell us today where you are joining us from. Where are you now?
So I'm currently in Sydney, still working from home, like enjoying the working from home and the lockdowns, but starting to despise the lockdown a little bit.
Yes.
Because it's been quite a long journey since we started.
It has been a long journey. Yes. I wish we were all together in Sapporo right now.
Yes.
Munkbot, tell the audience, please, where you are from.
So I'm originally from Mongolia, and I'm a traditional networking engineer. I graduated with the networking engineer major.
Now is a wonderful time to plug the upcoming Mongolia NOG, the third edition of MN NOG,
Yes.
Which will be coming up, I believe, next month.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, if you're not registered to attend, I strongly urge you to do so. It's a neat event with a neat community. So Munkbot, please tell us about your first job in the network engineering world.
The first job, so I didn't start with my computer networking as a first job. I started my career as a database engineer, which is weird, but we're all related to it, right? And my first network engineering job was at a major internet service provider company in Mongolia. And we were like giving service to like around 80 to 85% of the population in Mongolia. And it was very, very great experience to have worked in that kind of triple play service and internet and then telecommunication services company.
When you made the jump from database engineering to Unitel, how did you do so? What was it that enabled you to get the job? You had the education. I know you had the educational background in network engineering,
Yes.
But what was it that propelled you into your first role as a network engineer?
Okay, so when I first joined the other company, the very first one as a database engineer, that was the kind of the best opportunity I had at that moment. So I didn't hesitate to took that opportunity to like start my career instead of waiting for the right one to come, right? And it was kind of a scary decision because I was pushing myself away from the networking field. But then again, the start of the downfall of the mining industry in Mongolia, I started to feel the difference and feel the urge to work as a network engineer, and that's when I started looking for the exactly network engineering role.
After a few years in Mongolia, you were able to make a pretty big jump. Tell us about that big jump, please.
It was it was a pretty big jump and pretty very risky decision, to come to another country as a international student for higher education. And at that time, it was quite, or maybe very different to find a job as a student and then landing a job for a full-time position. And then I had the opportunity to attend this 2-day engineering learning series administered by one of the teams that I'm currently working in at the company. And I met these folks who were very, very knowledgeable and very eager to teach the cloud infrastructure, cloud technology to the engineers in the field out there. And I'm really glad I joined that. And final outcome was I did land a job at the company, and I'm very excited about it.
So you've been at AWS for about 3 years now, I think.
Just roughly 2 years. Tomorrow will be my 2nd year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So AWS is a pretty major employer in our industry. You are in and among the cutting edge of network engineering. from a career standpoint, what advice would you offer any of the fellows who are looking to work in really, really big scale, cloud scale network engineering? What are some of the things they should know about how to prepare for the kind of career that you've embarked on?
So from my personal experience, like I'm only working at AWS, but there are other major cloud providers which people are looking at, right? Like Microsoft or Google. From my perspective, it's really about the company and their principles, employing for each and every decisions they are making on behalf of the customer, right? So we really have to understand what those principles are and whether they are aligning with your personal career goal or aspirations or principles, whatever. And we have to find the best match and then study the company as deep as possible, right? Because as a professional, we are providing our services to the company in exchange of the other incentives, right? So the final advice would be to seek out for what the company is doing for the community and the customers. That would be my advice.
Oh, that's very, very wise advice. Thank you, Mongpat. I want to turn our attention now to our friend Anju. Anju, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, David.
Anju, please tell everyone where you are coming to us from today.
Based in Fiji, and that's the beauty about working on the internet and web. We can be online nomads and working from anywhere, even if it's under a tree.
So I did happen to peek at what the weather is like in Fiji today, and well, we should all be in Fiji is what I'm seeing.
Yes.
So Anju, I want to start with where you work today. Who do you work for?
So I work for the World Wide Web Foundation.
And for those who don't know it, tell us about the founder of the World Wide Web Foundation.
Tim Berners-Lee. He was the one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Tim Berners-Lee. He was the one. He's the founder of the World Wide Web Foundation. And we continue to work with him to advocate for open, secure, and safe internet and also web, particularly for our young generation.
And if anyone happens not to recognize the name, that's okay. Tim actually invented the World Wide Web. Anju, you come from a different background than Mongpat and Pratneet. Tell us a little bit about your career before you joined the World Wide Web Foundation.
Sure. Before I talk about my career, I think let me start by telling everyone my first ever experience with the computer was around 1997. And I was addicted to the game Solitaire. It was the most fun-filled game during my time. But I didn't realize how computers could make such huge difference in our lives today. And obviously how ICT has played a very imperative role, particularly during online education, especially during COVID. And I still remember when I enrolled in computer science, information science, and also did GIS. Not many girls were taking up ICT courses during my time. And at that time, I didn't even realize, or it didn't even occur to me that there was a digital gender divide. So I owe my first ICT career to an amazing team in the University of the South Pacific, which is based here in Fiji. They were the ones that gave me my very first job as a student assistant, and I owe my success to them. I learned so much: networking, routing, how to set up TCP/IP addresses in private networks, hardware, software. It was all part of the learning package. And I think one of the things that I do want to mention here is that never forget your role models. Because no matter who you are and how successful you become, you should never forget the first person that taught you the basic skills, and always remember to give back to the community, because it's sort of like a circle, right? So you can encourage people to grow and to become part of the community. do you want me to keep going or?
Well, so yeah, let's talk about the people. Please tell us about somebody who made a difference in your career that's helped you get to the point where you are today.
Okay, so my very first, I guess, role model are my parents, because they believed in me and they didn't stop me from pursuing my studies or career in ICT. And it makes a huge difference to have family support, because many people still struggle to get that support. And when we talk about things like rural connectivity in forums or in meetings, or even talk about marginalized groups, many of these women and girls, and particularly persons with disabilities, are still very disconnected because they don't get that support from their role models at home. And it starts from home. And then from there, obviously, when you join the university, you have a community of friends that continue to empower you, right? So those are the other role models. And then when you become student assistants, the first person that you reach out to is the people that actually gave you the job. So I would owe that success to a few people in the University of the South Pacific. I'll just leave it at that for now.
Tell us a little about, at the World Wide Web Foundation, tell us a little bit about how important it is to have the hard skills in the engineering space, and how that balances with the soft skills dealing with people. In your world, what's the mix like?
That's a really good question. And for me, technology is not the solution. It is a platform that provides support, but the people and the processes mean so much to me. And if you don't understand the people in your organization, or even in your community, or the process of how to do things in your organization, and even also with your stakeholders, it's not going to work. And I believe that, while we have all these amazing technologies, again, like I said, people, without people, this is going to be pointless and useless. So balancing that in an organization where I have to work, on things like, thinking about open data initiatives, data privacy, what are the technical aspects of, hosting a data hub, and then you move from that space talking about policies. How do you create policies for people, like broadband policies, ICT policies? How do you enable people to understand what these policies mean to them? And then, it's quite an interesting balance. It takes time to learn, but I do want to say that it's important to read, and it's important to understand what are the technical part of it, but also what is the process, and also the people part of it. So I think, having that design thinking approach when you come to an organization, or when you're doing something in an organization, is very important.
So Andrew, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I apologize in advance. You are wonderfully extroverted and ebullient, and your people skills just shine through. Not everybody in our industry has that. There are people in our audience, there are fellows in our audience right now who feel like they don't know anyone in the industry, who don't know how to really get to know somebody in this industry. And they may have really, really good technical skills, but the social skills are a source of anxiety, a source of challenge for them. What piece of advice do you give to one of our fellows who is struggling with how to even begin learning how to conquer and improve the social aspect, the social engineering aspect of the workplace?
I think that's a really brilliant question. David, for people that don't know me, I started as an introvert. I was doing coding, I was doing programming, I was sitting in my own room alone mostly. But I also realized that I needed to challenge myself, to learn more about what the world was and what was happening around us. One of the things that I realized was that there were so many things happening in Fiji and also in the region. And I wanted to just understand what was going on. At that time, I was very shy. You wouldn't believe it. I know some people wouldn't believe it, but I was also very reluctant to voice my opinion because I was in front of people who knew what was happening, who understood the internet, who understood the web. So I kept, I was a little shy, but then I kept telling myself that you need to keep challenging yourself and think, outside of the box, and also, move out of that space. I joined the Pacific chapter of the Internet Society, and that's when my career path really kicked off. I got involved as an ISOC ambassador. And again, like I said, I was very quiet. I didn't really voice my opinion. I listened. One of the key things is open to conversation, open to listening is very key. And then I got involved with Diplo Foundation. I did internet governance course. So learning while I wanted to speak in events was very key. And then, I started engaging with lots of people who were doing amazing things, David. And it sort of made me feel like, I can do that. And I met so many amazing people, even learning about APNIC. I met Paul, Sunny, Sylvia, Joyce, Pablo. I did a few courses with them, but at that time I wasn't really sure whether I really understand everything about understood. But then I started learning, understanding what the dynamic was. And then, there's a world of new opportunities out there, but the important lesson is that you need to be a voice for yourself and also for your community, because the world will keep moving forward. And I think, introvert, extrovert, it really depends. But as a person, you figure out who you really are and what you want to achieve in the next few years or 10 years, and then work according to that. But it's also important to engage and network with the right people so that, you build your confidence as well.
That's a great answer. Thank you. If this is something that you think about a lot, please go back to the recording of this and listen to Anju's answer again. There's a lot of really important information in there. Thank you. Our third panelist, we saved the best for last. It's our friend Praneet. Good afternoon, Praneet.
Hi, everyone. Hi, David. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for the warm introduction.
And where are you coming to us from today, Praneet?
I'm coming from India, based in Hyderabad right now.
Yes. So Praneet has a completely different background than both Munkbat and Anju. Praneet is a true nerd's nerd. Praneet knows everything. Praneet,
Okay.
tell us a little bit about how you describe, if your parents ask you, what is it you do for a living? How do you describe it?
Well, I actually start off with Alexa because that's the simplest thing. So I just tell them, when you walk in a room and you say, Alexa, turn on the lights, and the lights just turn on automatically. That's what I do on a high level. But yeah, coming to the core of it, I am basically an IoT developer and I'm working with LoRaWAN. I work on the LPWAN right now, but I've worked with other technologies in the past as well. And I have sort of, since the past 5 years, I've been sort of pinning down, this is the technology I work on, this is next, this is next. So that's sort of how I've been pushing my career.
What was the very first technology you remember learning, and how old were you?
I think it was Wi-Fi probably, and I was just in college and I was very interested in the robotics club, and I used to, just go out there and take any Bluetooth module, any Wi-Fi module, put it all together and just make something work. I think it was a line follower I made. Yeah, some IR sensors.
I'd like to ask you about the role that hard work has played in your career so far. What kind of commitment do you feel that you have had to make over the last, over the last 5 or 6 years since you graduated? What kind of level of effort have you had to commit to work in order to get to where you're at today? And the level of commitment you feel is necessary for you to get to where you want to go?
Okay, that's a great question. It's an ongoing struggle, I would say. But I think from the beginning, it was a little challenging to get into this area because, first of all, IoT is still very niche in India, even though we have a lot of startups who are into it, but it's very hard to find big players in India right now. And to get into development, being just a bachelor's holder and not even from a computer science degree, it was a little challenging, honestly, because nobody tells you that you do any kind of software engineering job, you have to be good at coding. But in electronics, they don't really teach you to code. All you learn is MEMS and antennas, which you don't really use in real life. So I think that was a little challenging in the beginning. I had to get good at coding all by myself. And then hardware always keeps changing. It's never the same. So I remember when I first started, I didn't actually start with a development job. I started with a training job. And 5 months into it, I realized it's not for me. So I made a jump and I started working with a startup. And the thing with startups is there are very less people and there's a lot of work. So yeah, I think it was just because we had a great team and all of us used to stay up till late. There were times when my entire team used to even sleep in the office. So I think hard work is very important, especially when you're dealing with hardware, because you never know when you're going to get the output. And sometimes I remember we used to be up at it for days long, trying to see every single packet which is going in the link and what's going wrong. So hard work and dedication has really played a major role, and I think it's still going on. I'm still up at nights trying to figure out what's wrong with my hardware. Where is the gateway stuck? I don't know. So yeah, that's a continuous effort.
So Praneet, you have one of the great jobs that a lot of people in the audience would love to hear a little bit about. How did you first get interested and how did you first get the job of an APNIC community trainer?
Yes, that's very interesting indeed. So I think the first event where I got introduced to APNIC was in India. I was attending ISOC seminar at INSEG. I was a fellow at INSEG, and then Sunny was there and he was playing a really cool game, the one with all the, I forgot the name of the game now, but he plays a really cool game and I was super interested, and I asked him, can I have your deck of cards? I want to do it at my regional level as well. He told, no, that's proprietary, but you can join if you think. So that's what I did. And yeah, I was also selected as a APNIC fellow for the Chiang Mai event, and it was APNIC 42. And there I got introduced to some more amazing people. I met Paul, I met Jessica, I met, I think I didn't meet you there, but yeah, I met a lot of other people as well. So there I got to know about the APNIC community trainer role. And as soon as I was back to India from Thailand, I started interviewing. And it was, I think, several levels of interviews, but finally I made it. And it has been an amazing journey. I've provided few workshops in the past, and I'm looking forward to many more.
That's wonderful. We actually did meet at APNIC 42, and it's totally okay. You don't remember because that was quite the meeting and there was a lot going on, but I remember you. I remember you very, very well. And of course, now you have me thinking about meeting APNIC as a community in Chiang Mai and how much I missed that. But I look, we'll all look forward to meeting again as a community.
Yes, surely.
Okay, so we have an open question now for all three of you, and any one of you is welcome to jump in. This is the question that personally I dread when I've had my job interviews over the years, because I find it embarrassing, because I don't want to answer it honestly, because I'm scared that it's going to make me look bad and I'm not going to get the job. But with some wisdom and some experience, I've learned it's actually a really important question for everybody. Talk to us about a failure you've had that you learned from that made you better in your career today. any one of you is welcome to jump in, as scary as that is. So I'll start. I've been working in this industry for 22 years. And the biggest mistake that I made the whole way that I didn't know I was making until just a few years ago was I talked too much. Anju mentioned this earlier. Listening is so much more important than talking. But I'm someone who, in the various roles that I've had and in the various places I've been, I always prided myself on knowing the answer. I always prided myself on knowing the correct answer. And I was very eager to share that with anyone who wanted to hear it. But sometimes that's not the right thing to do. Sometimes it's important to listen. It's important to hear the context of what someone's saying and listen behind the words for what they're really saying. So it took me a long time to learn, but I've become a whole lot better employee for the people I work for. I've been a better teammate for the people I work with. And I've been a better engineer for the people I'm trying to help, the people I'm trying to solve problems with, the people I'm talking with, by listening a whole lot more and talking quite a bit less. So that was one of my really big failures throughout the earlier and middle parts of my career. That's the advice I would always give anybody, especially people who are more like me, who always felt like they know the right answer, because, we take pride in what we do, right? We take pride in being good at what we do, and knowing the answer sometimes is really valuable and really helpful. But listening is even more so. Anju, Monkbot, Praneet, one of you like to share an experience you've had like that?
I'm gonna give Praneet and Monkbot to go first, and I can go last. Only if they want.
I think I'd like to share my first attempt when I was applying for AWS. It was around 2 months after when I arrived in Australia, and it was a very different job field. The culture is different, and the processes to apply for the company was very different. And I think that's why I did that mistake. So I applied for a job, and then I was interviewed by phone. And then I was called for an on-site interview. And for that part, I didn't prepare anything. Like I knew all my history, like all my previous day-to-day tasks and the problems I faced. So I just went there not knowing not preparing anything. And then when the questions came, I had to think a lot to bring those memories from back. And then obviously I failed that one. And then for the next interview, I prepared for 6 months to get to know what and each very extraordinary problems I faced, so that I can showcase how good I am at problem solving. And then I finally made it on the second attempt. And I'm glad that I made the first mistake, that I could learn for the next one.
Thank you for sharing that, Monkbot. Yeah, I think we can all sympathize with that. Anju, talk to us.
Where do I start? There was so many failures, to be honest, but I remember, but it's a good learning curve for me. I remember my first experience in setting up a map server for a disease outbreak system long time ago. My team leader was a tough French guy, and I also have to thank him for being tough, because it sort of made me a bit more confident in what I had to do. It took me a long time to figure out how to build the map server, but eventually we did. built the first online map server for that organization. But you know what? I failed so many times. I was even told that I may not be able to build anything. I almost quit the job. I cried, and there's nothing wrong when you cry. But then, I remember my dad said that you have to keep trying. And I said to him, no, I want to quit the job. I don't want to do this anymore, because it was so tough. He was really tough with me. But then, you know what? I woke up one day and realized he's right. I can't give up. And giving up is just not me. And I think it's a very important lesson for me ever since then. There's always a solution. And it's always a good learning experience to find out how to figure it out and how to build it. So I went back to work and I said to the guy, I will do my best. I can't guarantee it, but I will do my best. I stayed for a week or so. I worked till late. And I think Praneeth mentioned this, hard work is very, very important. I stayed up till late. I even, I didn't even eat much. And then we did build it. And the guy said to me, you see, you did it because I kept pushing you, and I pushed you to that level where you almost quit, but it was good, right? And I was like, no, this is not good for you. I was 23, 24, not good, but it's tough world out there. And to be honest, I am the first Pacific Islander joining the World Wide Web Foundation. It's been tough. I've applied for lots of jobs. Even APNIC, I have to say, unfortunately, I didn't get it. But you know what? I don't lie about it. I'm honest about it. I'm real about it. And I will keep trying. APNIC, maybe I'll take Paul's job one day, but that's okay. We'll figure that out later. So yeah, keep trying.
So we have our first question from the audience. I'd like to thank the person who asked it very much. They asked it to us privately, so I'll keep their name private just in case. This is for all three of you. They want to know any advice you have for somebody who winds up, who has curiosity about so many different things. And because of that diverse curiosity, feels like they are a jack of all trades, but a master of none. In your experience, in your career so far, when you think about both your experiences and the experiences with your coworkers, what are the types of roles, what are the types of advice, what are the types of things that make that for someone who is a jack of all trades but a master of none, what are some of the things they can do? What are some of the things they can achieve here in our industry?
Yeah, David, I would like to go on this. So I think eventually you figure it out on your own, at the point when you're graduating. For instance, I would take my case. When I was graduating, I was too stuck on one single company. I really wanted to join Cisco. So I didn't apply for any other company, and I ended up not getting in Cisco. And then I had no place to go. So I eventually joined a training company, and then later I figured out it was not for me. So you just make mistakes and realize, but there's no harm in trying. But if you just keep thinking that I'm good at this, then you'll end up just thinking and not doing anything. So I think it's better to give it a go and just see how it turns out. Eventually, along the way, you figure it out in some time. That's what happened to me. I never knew I wanted to be an IoT developer. I tried and tried. So it started with one startup, then a second company, then a third company. And even at this point, I wouldn't say this is exactly what I want to do. So it's a continuous journey. I think you should just enjoy the process.
Yeah, we hear that a lot in our industry. It is a continuous journey. Praneeth is the ultimate example where there's always more to learn. And the more you learn, the more well-rounded you are. And whether or not you're a master or not, whether you're a jack of all trades or not, the more you learn, the more value you have as an employee and as a team member and as an engineer. Because in the end, engineering isn't a discrete science. You're not always just going to be sitting there working on a box, doing a thing. Eventually, it's all about the bigger problem solving. It's about the bigger picture. It's about being part of a bigger team and a bigger mission. And the more you know and the more well-rounded you are, often the better it is. Tashi has put in a comment in the chat. One of the biggest issues, especially in our regions, there are so many great engineers with very limited resources, hence highly innovative in their approach. But they hardly manage to take out time for conferences like this, especially when it's in person, because it is easier to do this remote, isn't it? How do we accord them the same opportunity? It's generally folks who show up to the various conferences who get this opportunity. Sure. One of the nice features of hybrid events or these remote events is they're recorded. So there's some great information being imparted here that is archived and available for everybody to watch. But beyond that, it's a really important question that Tashi asks, which is how do we grow as a community? How do we get more and more people involved? How do we get more and more people opportunities so that Anju's not the only Pacific Islander working at this great company? And so that Munkbot and the people he grew up with in Mongolia are getting the same opportunities that he has to grow into these big, huge multinational and cloud scale companies where they're doing amazing things. To do what Praneet's doing at some of the cutting edge of technology and robotics and hardware and routing. You know, how do we give people opportunities? How did you grab those opportunities? That's open to any of the three of you.
Munkbot, do you want to go, or Praneet, do you want to go first? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead first.
No, you go ahead. I saw you unmuting first. So you
Okay, okay, thank you so much. Okay, so basically when I went for the look for the network engineering role at an internet service provider company, I had no idea that EPNIC exists and all this kind of great engaging community exists, right? After joining and started working as an IP network engineer and getting the real experience that I was long looking for, and one of the days I got to engage with one of my managers who was dealing with the accounts perspective from EPNIC, right? And that's when I was introduced to EPNIC. And then I started to do some research on my own, like going through the websites. And then because not alone many engineers knows this stuff exists, right? At that time, we didn't have a NOC at Mongolia itself. And the community was like competing with each other. The engineers who work at the major ISP companies, they were competing with each other, not a very productive community, right? So when I was doing some research, I found out the fellowship program, and then I luckily got chosen for the EPNIC 44, which I went on the SDN, the very first SDN workshop that EPNIC instructed, right, and met a very great teachers there. That time it was very life-changing moment, you know, because very few Mongolian engineers previously attended the workshops and all the events, but not much to forward the knowledge or the news to all the engineers back there. And then after that, I had the idea of like to start the MNNOG itself, because there was no local community that was sharing those knowledge that the EPNIC and the global community was evolving around. And I did not get the chance to start the MNNOG, but I was one of the founding members, but no longer at the moment because I'm here in Sydney. I cannot engage with them in person. But the example from the MNNOG itself, they are getting huge attention from the community, and a lot of university students, they are getting more and more knowledge, more information than I had at my time when I was a student. And they are getting to know all these opportunities, all these trainings, all these job opportunities, all these networking opportunities. And I think that's one of the best examples. You have to keep developing these local communities and delegating information to them so that we are one big community.
Yeah, that really is so important. I'm an American. I failed to mention at the beginning, I'm actually coming to you today from the state of Virginia in the United States of America. And I've been in this community for 22 years. And my favorite place to travel are the small NOGs, the small community events, especially the ones in the Asia Pacific region. I've made so many friends and learned so much. It really is just a brilliant, brilliant setup that fosters so much. Anju.
Okay, so am I on? Okay, I can.
Yeah. We can hear you.
So there's always a world of new opportunities out there, right? But the most important lesson is to be a voice for the people that don't necessarily get opportunities. But it is also your prerogative to make sure that you continue to give back to the community. So if you have been given an opportunity, you don't need to be everywhere, but find those champions in your community or even in your organization, a colleague sitting next to you, bring them to the forum. And it's important to know what's happening around you, but it's also important to be true to yourself and have some integrity. Coming back to David's point about introvert, when you have to bring them to the table and give them a voice, but also encourage them, build their confidence, and also teach them that there are bad sharks and good sharks. I'm not sure if I'm using the right analogy, but find the good-hearted people that focus on the community, on the people. I dislike, and I will repeat this, I dislike people who use the community or a forum as an opportunity to rise high, but they forget the people that are sitting behind the scene working hard, and they are the real people. To be honest, when David, Sunny, when you reached out to me about this opportunity to speak, I always look for someone. But this was a very important one that I really wanted to join, because I wanted to tell the young people out there, be real, okay? If you're coming to a platform and if you're going to be a leader in the near future, be a good leader and always think about your people, your community, involve them. And also a leader does not just delegate, okay? If you become a leader, work with your team and make sure things are happening. I will just give you an example. We had the Pacific IGF event last week. But you know what? It was a great team effort. We had people who did not even know about the IGF. We brought them out from their little, hubs, their country hubs, 9 country hubs connected to worldwide. They were able to attend the APTLD meeting. They were able to understand what was happening with APNIC, ICANN, etc. So it's about, going back to them and saying, you know what, this is your forum. You need to be here. And for me, for example, I hate to be there everywhere. So I always continue to look for those champions. And like I said, be a true person to yourself. You don't have to be everywhere. I'll leave it at that, David.
Yeah. Great answer. Okay, so let's move into a little bit of the lightning round, part of our journey today. Our friend Maz. It's nice to see you, Maz. Hello. I hope your daughter's well. Our friend Maz asks a really good question. He asks that it's really good to have a place to go when you have technical problems, whether it's a search engine, whether it's a colleague, a mentor, a friend, a community. Where do you turn when you have a question and need help? And Praneet, I'll start with you. You typed your answer, but talk to us for those who aren't watching the chat.
Yes, I think as the other panelists have already mentioned, it's always good to turn to the colleagues and friends and be very extrovert like Anju in the work environment. So I think that's the first place to go, because the person sitting next to you probably knows more than anybody else out there. So that's the first place to start. Have a good relationship with your manager, because he can probably guide you to the person who might be able to best help you. So for instance, right now I'm working for a Canadian company sitting here in India, and I'm the only employee working from India. So it's a little challenging for me sometimes, but I always turn to my manager and he's always able to help me, reach out to this person. So we have a team sitting in Ukraine. He always tells me, okay, you can reach out to this person in Ukraine or this person in Canada. So I think that's a good place to start. And there are a lot of open communities out there. There's Stack Overflow, there is GitHub, and there's virtually everything for every, there's virtually a community for every internet area. So as I said, IETF is also a great place in case you're looking for some technical recommendations. But yes, I think the first place to go is ask a colleague, ask the people you work with, and always network. So for instance, I go to a lot of technical workshops and seminars and interact with people, because you might be working in a technology which might be niche, but always remember there are other people also who feel the same way. So when you talk to those people, they might be able to tell you the points where you're missing. So yeah.
Munkbot, for you, when you're working with a customer and they have a difficult problem that needs solving and you don't know the answer, and let's say it's actually related more towards, network engineering more than, say, programming or something, what are some of the resources you like to use to find some of the answers?
For networking, I think APNIC is a great place. I get a lot of information on APNIC website. And mostly for me, actually, it's for instance, it's LoRaWAN, 6LoWPAN. So I have to turn to RFCs in most of the cases, and also to the open communities. For instance, for LoRa, there is LoRa Alliance. And I usually find most of the material from there. And in fact, for every technology, there is one. So for Wi-Fi, also there's a consortium. So if I have a problem with Wi-Fi, I go to that. And if there is a problem with Z-Wave stack, I go to the proprietary Z-Wave. So yeah, I think in my case, it's mostly the proprietary technologies I'm working with or the open forums pertaining to that particular technology. But other than that, I think Stack Overflow is a very good place. In case I have a general problem, I always turn to that.
Munkbot, what about you?
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay. So personally, I would check out with my mentors. Like when I join a company, there must be some senior employees who has been there for a while, has been achieving and has been very successful, and sharing those experiences and knowledges since the day I joined. So that would be the first point I would go to. And if they are not available, so I would go to the open communities or the previous companies or the professional network I have on the social medias. They should be the one who can answer, because we're all a big community, and somewhere around the world, they must have faced it before, the problem that I'm facing at the moment. So I will be able to find an answer from my networks.
Great. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of our time together. So I want to give all three of you an opportunity to please give a piece of advice. It doesn't have to be the best piece of advice. Give a piece of advice or tell us something for the APNIC 52 fellows that you wish that you would like them to know as they think about and prepare to embark on their careers in our industry. Andrew, I'm going to start with you. You've given us, you've taught us so much today, but as a parting word, what would you like to say to the APNIC 52 fellows about their careers?
Enjoy, there's so much to learn. Honestly, I can't be everywhere. But it's also good to have those recordings, because it's also good to go back and listen to those recordings. But just enjoy, learn. And honestly, if you don't know anything, just ask. And that's something that I see a lot happening in the Pacific. Sometimes they shy away. They are very technically smart, but they will not ask. But asking, because you don't have the answers to everything, right? So ask your colleagues, ask the people in APNIC, ask the person that is also joining the forum. And also, for me, action speaks louder than words, right? If you want to make a huge difference, you have to commit yourself and do it, and don't make excuses. Okay, if you say that you're going to send me a proposal by this time, don't say you can't do it. Say, yes, I can try, but I need your help, and I will be able to help you. So always reach out. And I think lastly, there's too much going on in this whole COVID situation with Zoom meetings. I'm zoomed out, to be honest. Take care of yourself. Self-care is very important. Last week I was on like high drive. I was sleeping at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's not healthy. Enjoy your time with your family and also with your good friends. But if you feel like you're losing the battle, reach out to that one person or that community that you trust, because that is the most important thing. Trust. And I have a few people here in the community. I won't take names, but when I am down and when I feel like I'm losing the battle, I reach out to them, because they come up with so many great ideas. Or they tell me, shut up, Anju, and just figure it out yourself. Thank you.
You've given us so many wonderful things to think about and to incorporate. Thank you so much, Anju. Praneet, my friend, what would you like to say to our APNIC 52 fellows as they embark on their careers?
I think Anju actually said very well that priorities matter. So yeah, first of all, we should take care of our mental health. That's most important. And what I would like to say is, I think career is not really a destination. It's an ongoing journey. So enjoy the process. Don't be afraid to try and fail. It's okay. Everyone fails. Nobody gets anything at the first time. And never forget your role models. And yeah, always be willing to get up and try back again.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Praneet. It's been wonderful listening to you in your journey. And finally, Munkbot, my friend, we've never met before. I'm really happy to meet you now, and I look forward to meeting you in person at a future APNIC and Apricot meeting. Talk to us for the APNIC 52 fellows. What are your parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, same here, same here. Well, I think Anju and Praneet pretty much covered all the general stuff, but they're very, very good advice, and I'm also aligning towards that. What I would like to tell is that be prepared to make a two-door decision. If it doesn't work out, you can just try something else. Never be afraid to do that. And we will never know when will that be useful in your next path in the future. So don't be afraid, just do it. Yeah.
Don't be afraid, just do it. What a life motto. So that brings us to the end of the APNIC 52 Next Gen Fellows BoF. I hope this was informative. I hope this was entertaining. I hope our large amount of slides didn't bore you too much. Thank you so much for joining, and look forward to seeing you at next session. Sienna, it's all you.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you so much, panelists and all of the people who've contributed in the chat. There will be a session survey coming up, a poll coming up in a moment. So please let us know how you found the session. And I'd just like to leave with this thought that we often talk about the APNIC community. And I think that this session has really highlighted that there really is a community. And particularly if you're in the early stages of your career, take advantage of that community. It might feel quite vulnerable and a bit scary, but I tell you what, everyone has been a beginner at some time, and we all remember how it feels. I'm still a beginner. I feel like I'll always be a beginner, but that's okay. So thank you so much, and take care, everyone. Please do remember to join the conference chat if you want to keep talking about this. And yeah, we encourage everyone to keep talking and keep reaching out. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.